Welcome back to another episode of Exploring Hogwarts Legacy. Today we are going to be checking out Central Hall and that section of the castle towards the greenhouses. Right now we are sitting in what I described as the staircase area or the big hall at the base of the Defense Against the Dark Arts Tower. We explored that in the last episode. This is, of course, episode 5 of our series now, and we're going to be going out these doors here. So we're continuing on. This was the staircase, I believe, to get up to the astronomy tower, and we are going to take these doors here and lead us out into this hallway. Now, I'm not entirely sure. This might be a reference to a passage in the books. I believe it's Order of the Phoenix, where the Weasley twins end up making a hallway into a swamp. Now, I will be honest with you. When I have been playing this game, I've been speedrunning it. So I have basically been skipping all of the explanations to the game. And with that being said, I do have to make some corrections to some statements I've made in past episodes. I've been describing this game as taking place in the 1880s. This actually takes place in the 1890 school year. So I was incorrect in stating that this takes place in the year 1890. I also mentioned that I was unsure what Professor Fig taught. I did check the wiki, and before we move on, let me pause here because I think this is probably my favorite part of the castle, and I want to explain it. But Professor Fig is the magical theory teacher, which is a class that is described in the books but never given much detail. So he's the magical theory teacher, and I'm trying to remember if there are any other faux pas or incorrect information I gave you. If they come to me, I'll try to remember to correct myself on them. But coming out of this kind of stench-filled hallway here, this is what I would describe as my favorite castle design, or my favorite design on the interior of the castle. All of these columns are very forest-based, and I really like this. I think this is my favorite bit of world design here. You got a lot of centaur-type statues. As we move towards the greenhouses and the grounds area of Hogwarts, all of these columns are very tree-based, very much a woodland motif going on here. There's some of that pattern into the upper arches there. Some more forest-type tapestries, centaurs in the woods, likely the Forbidden Forest. We will explore the Forbidden Forest a little bit. There's not a ton of detail to go into with the Forbidden Forest when we're in there, but we can check out some centaur herds, that sort of thing. But very cool world design. I love the tapestries. I love the colors in here. I love the columns looking like trees. Everything about this little section of the castle I absolutely adore. Tree there, nothing that we can really explore except to go out these doors here. And now we are on the outside of the castle. This is leading down to Hagrid's hut. So we will save that part for another episode, which means we have to backtrack here. I did think that this connected to a greater part of the castle. I mentioned last episode we would save this for this section, but this doesn't really go anywhere out except for the outside. But what we're going to want to do is find our way over to Central Hall. So I believe this door here at the base of the Defense Against the Dark Arts Tower leads out to Central Hall. We're going to take it here and see where it leads. Now, this is the Transfiguration Corridor, which we explored last episode. What we did not explore was this set of doors here. So this is Central Tower. I can't look higher than that, and those are the bell towers. That's what we're going to be exploring today. So let's take a look through these doors. And now we are at the base of what is called Central Hall. So when we get up there, I'll explain it a little more in depth. But just looking over here, I'll give you an example of one of these puzzles. So this key has exposed itself. You do have to find the keys before they expose themselves, and then you try to pin them to the puzzle. And obviously my character is in Slytherin, and you get these house tokens that you collect and place in your common room for what is presumably a prize at the end. This is another one of those puzzle doors that we've already opened. But we're going to stick to our right shoulder. That's the door we just came in. So we're going to follow over here. Now, I can't remember exactly what they're calling this section here, but when we go out these doors, this leads to the Potions Dungeon. So, the Potions Dungeon is separate from the Slytherin Dungeon. This is on a completely other side of the castle, but it is film accurate. We do see the Potions classroom in the film being at the base of the Viaduct Entrance. Which is exactly where we are in terms of the map of the castle. But here is the entrance to the Potions classroom here. Now, I can't remember the name of the Potions professor off the top of my head right now. I do apologize. Like I said, I have been speedrunning this game, so some of the character names and some of the little character explanations and beats have flown past me. But fairly film accurate, especially towards the end. I think we start to see this design of the Potions classroom more so in Order of the Phoenix and onwards. I can't remember if we see it in Goblet of Fire or not, but we definitely see it by the time of Horace Slughorn. And I am going to reveal this little field guide page, collect it. Professor Sharp is his name, and we can talk to him for a quest, but we're going to skip that at the moment. Just another look around this Potions classroom here. Of course, we see it quite a bit in Half-Blood Prince, what with all of the stuff going on with Professor Slughorn. But there's the Potions classroom, and then there's this storage closet here, which we do not have access to. This has a level 1 lock on it. But of course, that would be where Mad-Eye Moody steals all of the stuff from, or I should say Barty Crouch Jr. steals all the supplies for Polyjuice Potion in the Goblet of Fire to transform into Mad-Eye Moody. Tucking to our right again, this will lead us back into the dungeons, and I'm trying to remember if this does connect in the game to the dungeons of the Slytherin common room. We're going to follow. We've already been here, and this is locked, so maybe it does connect, but we don't have access to it at the moment. So it's a dead end. We're going to go back up to Central Hall. Apologize one more time. I do apologize in every single episode, just mentioning the fact that if you do get dizzy very easily, I do apologize for how fast my camera might move on your screen. This game should come with a dizzying warning. I don't have epilepsy, so I don't have problems with colors, but I do tend to get migraines easily, and so some of the movement in this game is fairly quick. And when you're going up spiral staircases like that, it can make you pretty dizzy. I can't remember what this character's name is here, but leading into the Potions classroom, a famous potioneer, and a statue of him there. Then let's go up to Central Hall. So this is a book and film accurate location. If you're trying to think of it on a map, it's essentially the big corridor that leads from the viaduct over to the bell towers. It's this very large, very wide corridor, and they have expanded it into this central hall. Now, it's described in the game. This is one thing I didn't skip. This location is described as the heart of Hogwarts, which does make sense when you think about Hogwarts from an architectural standpoint and how much surrounds this area of the castle. This is about halfway between the Great Hall and something like the Transfiguration classroom or the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom. If you wanted to avoid like Gryffindor Tower and Ravenclaw Tower and the Quad, this would be the central point of the castle. So it makes sense that they would add this as kind of this grand central station type design. So we came up those steps there. There's this huge unicorn statue in the center. Very much a train station feel to it. And we will explore all these little side rooms here, but there's one more little glance for you of just the grand scope of all of this. And I believe that door down there leads to the greenhouses, and that's why there is that tree up top. We will explore the greenhouses in this episode as well. This might be a longer episode. I'm really excited to check these out. Now, sticking to my right shoulder here, this is just going to be the top of a balcony. I'm not sure if that's a secret entrance to something. We don't know quite yet. If it is one, I should say. My character has not reached that point in the game yet. Just more sitting areas. A lot of hangout spots for the students that they included in the game, which I think is really nice. more musical statues. If I had my volume on, you'd be able to hear. I said statues, I meant paintings. You'd be able to hear the paintings and the tapestries with the volume that they make. Very much a large two-way staircase. Taking a look to the right here, and this leads out. It's going to load. This leads outside to a courtyard that I don't believe exists in the film model. So this is an exterior courtyard. You see dirigible plums there, a reference to the dirigible plums in the Deathly Hallows, part 1, the film especially, but at the Lovegoods place. I believe that's the first time we see them in the films. They're probably mentioned in Herbology in one of the books, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But this little bridge here overlooks the Transfiguration courtyard. There's that tree there that we mentioned in the last episode. And there you see some of those covered bridges looking at the Grand Staircase Tower. And this would lead over to the Defense Against the Dark Arts area. There's not a bridge, I believe, in the film model. It's just a walkway. But it would make sense with the levels that are displayed in the game that it would have this bridge leading over there here. So that's this courtyard. Nothing else to really explore from the ground level. Back on the inside here, more statues of various items. And we will stick to the right. Let's just circle around here and see what's going on before going upstairs. This will lead out, I believe, to one of those covered bridges that we talked about. Yes. So there is the entrance hall with the Great Hall there. Grand Staircase Tower. And there's where we were just standing on that bridge there. The Astronomy Tower, Defense Against the Dark Arts Tower, everything sitting there. The suspension bridge in the background. Back inside, we will go up this staircase immediately in front of us, tucking to our left. And let's just stick to my right shoulder real quick. This door here is open, but we'll come back to it. I like sticking to my right shoulder if you guys are familiar with the other episodes in this series. Just it's easier for me to follow along to where my place was. Let's go back down since we are following my right shoulder here. And why don't we just keep following physically to the right? And that leads us back up this spiral staircase. So this staircase goes only down to where we just were, which helps. So we're not missing anything by not going down this staircase. But if we go all the way to the top, let's find out what's at the top. I believe this is the Divination Tower. But up here, I believe this is a reference to the Battle of Hogwarts scene with, I think is it Kingsley Shacklebolt and Remus Lupin in Deathly Hallows Part 2. They never really explain where these rafters are, but I believe it's a reference to that scene there. There's another one of those puzzle rooms, which we've already gone through. And it leads just up to a little storage area. You're not missing anything gameplay-wise, but just more puzzle-type stuff, and we'll steal this field guide piece there. Arithmancy classroom. So this is an arithmancy classroom. This is a hidden Easter egg. You never really see it in the game, but you unlock it by doing one of those puzzle doors here. And this actually teaches you how to do the puzzle if you follow along mathematically. More of these rafters here, and we will circle around as soon as we get to the end. I haven't quite figured out how to use these chests here. I'm assuming there is a spell or a code you must crack to do that. I have not figured that out yet. More look at these rafters here. Just a lot of Hogwarts-style banners and hangings. And we'll continue up the spiral staircase then to the divination classroom, I believe is where we're going here. Yes. So it's got the ladder. We never see that in the films. We just see the spiral staircase. But in the books, they mention that there's a ladder that you need to climb to get up to the divination classroom. It's going to be a lot smaller than in the films, but more book accurate. It is a smaller class, or implied to be a smaller class. And I can't remember the teacher's name either. But just looking around the room here, this is the divination classroom. Very cozy, very prophetic. And of course, there the teacher ruminating about something. This is long before Sybil Trelawney takes over, long before Sybil Trelawney is even born, actually. I'll look up at the chandelier and ceiling there. Very mystical designs, but that is all for the divination classroom. We crawl back down. The controls are kind of like Grand Theft Auto, I do apologize. You probably just saw my screen cut out there. I have been doing my best to keep the video from lagging, so I'm recording it on a separate channel or a separate PlayStation control and playing it with, how do I describe this? I'm playing it with my main account, but you are seeing it recorded through a separate account, which is supposed to help with lag, but I do apologize if it does still lag for you. Continuing on the right wall here, let's just double check. I want to go back up here and see what we missed on this left-hand side, this spiral staircase, just because I don't know if we'll hit it either way or otherwise. This door here leads out to that. Did we just do this, or were we at? We were at the lower one. So this is the upper. There's two sets of bridges, one on top of the other, and we are now on the top one. So this will lead back to one of the quad towers, and that is, of course, the entrance courtyard and the Great Hall there. Back inside, and we will go back down. Those are not the Hogwarts crests. We are looking at some unique designs here. Unicorn on blue and maybe yellow or blue and green. An eagle on the Gryffindor colors, red and gray with a serpent or some kind of wyvern type thing, and then a sphinx on the Hufflepuff colors, but then you see the regular crest there. So I don't know if that's an Easter egg hinting lore-wise that there used to be different houses. If so, that is not necessarily canonical or has never been explained to be canonical. Those were the doors that we exited to explore. Oh, I lied. This is the viaduct here. So I don't know if we ever really checked that out, but I'll explain what I mean when I say the viaduct. So this is that big bridge that connects the entrance courtyard to Central Hall. That is Central Hall there. So that is the building to the right of the Great Hall that you see up on the other side of the viaduct. So you cross this massive bridge here. You'll remember in the 8th film, that's Deathly Hallows Part 2, that this viaduct didn't exist and instead was a bridge that shot out from the entrance courtyard. That's where like the Malfoys exited the battle, or I believe it's where like Voldemort's party and Hagrid carried Harry into the second half of the battle onto, but that is a location or a world building design created specifically for that film. It does not exist in any other film. Way in the distance there, if you can see on your screen, is Hogsmeade Village. It's very big, and we will explore it in a later episode. But one more better view of it there in the nighttime sky. You can't see a ton of details because of the color grading. Another look underneath the two towers there. The Great Hall over in that direction, but we will go back inside. That is the viaduct entrance there. Here's a better view of Central Hall, of course. So you see a dragon on the wall in the background, which is kind of a cool detail. And actually that relates to, you can kind of see on that wheel in front of me, it's not quite a clock, but it says Draco dormiens nunquam titilandus, which is the Hogwarts motto, which was made as a joke, but it literally translates to never wake a sleeping dragon, which that's what that, I don't know if you want to call that a mural on the background or a sculpture on the wall in the background or a frieze I don't know what the architectural term for a wall sculpture would be like that, but that's what you're seeing in the background is this demonstration of why you should never wake a sleeping dragon. Back down, there's that musician painting I mentioned earlier. And we will stick all the way down. Let's just check our right shoulder, make sure we're not missing anything. Just another globe that you can spin. And this is a showcase of something, but you can't interact with it. So we will go all the way back down then to the bottom. Of course, we came in on the right. Nope, I lied. We came in on the left. So we have already explored everything down in that direction there. These doors lead to the library. So one last look here. We came in from this side. We explored everything in that direction there. And now we will be exploring. You can make that fountain move, the Little Mermaid's at the bottom. Now we will be exploring the library. So either door on this side, there's two separate staircases that lead into the library. And it's somewhat film accurate, but very different from the design of the library in the films. But you will see elements there. Of course, ghosts dancing in the library at night. There's the librarian's desk there. But here is a grand view of the library. So very much larger than the set in the film, or at least more detailed than the library in the film series. Double spiral staircases on the far side, and then you saw that door is where we entered there. There's that other door on the other side right there. We'll stick to the right here. You're not really going to find anything specific. We could probably do a little revealing. There's chests everywhere. But just library type items, decorations, that sort of thing. Globes that you can interact with like every other room. Reading areas here. Very much a university library type design with occasional magical elements, I should say. There's one of those keys, so as soon as I see it, it's going to dash to the nearest version of that puzzle piece. So it's going to find its way over to one of those puzzle boxes. And when we come across it, then we can pin that key to the lock and open it up to reveal one of those house tokens. Another long reading table there. You'll be more familiar once we get upstairs. I don't know who this character is, but seems very into his studies. And I respect the grind, let's just say. We'll see on the bottom floor real quick before we go upstairs. You'll recognize the library more from the bottom, but here is a view of the other side. Those two doors on either side of the librarian's desk there. More reading areas. There's that puzzle piece. So as soon as we visualize the key with our character, it will zoom to this puzzle. And we wait for it to zoom across the center, and I will press my X button. And if I am fast enough... Oh, jumped the gun a little too early, but as soon as it crosses over the center, right? Oh, see, I missed it. You have to be quick, but not too quick. It's kind of a reactionary game, and it's a little tricky for me. I get a little ahead of myself. Oh, there we go again. If you can't tell, I'm from the Midwest. That's why I keep yelling "ope" every time something happens, but I got close enough there to open it up, and we collect that house token. So as soon as we're back at our common room, I will deposit those where they need to be deposited. Birdcage of some sort, more reading areas. And then this, of course, is the restricted section. So I don't know if my character has access to it at the moment. I do. So I broke in here earlier on on one of my missions. And I can't remember when the students are allowed in the restricted section. If it's 5th year, for some reason I always had it in my mind that only 7th years were allowed in the restricted section, but 5th year might be book accurate. It's been a long time since I came across that passage in the books. I don't know if you can interact with that. You cannot. So this is the restricted section where you will find all sorts of fun books, and then in this lower tier here, more decoration type stuff. And this is the lower levels of the restricted section of the library, where you will find some serious hardcore sugar honey iced tea. It goes on for several levels, and there are actually secret compartments at the bottom. I mentioned in a past episode that my character had been not indoctrinated, but inducted or made his way into a secret wizarding society. And one of my quest items was to collect something at the bottom of the enchanted book section of the restricted section of the library. So now we are in the very bottom of the restricted section here. All of my gear slots are still full. I haven't gone to vendors to sell some of my old stuff, so I can't collect any items from the chests. More reading stuff, more reading stuff. Nothing you haven't seen a million times in this video before. And then we reach the end of this hallway, and here is that passage which leads to the underside or the underbelly of the restricted section. I'm going to switch my spells out real quick just so we can take advantage of this statue and capture one of those field guide pages. Another globe, that third globe that you can interact with, fourth globe that you can interact with. But we are continuing through fifth globe, and this is that section. Oh, I lied. There's still more to go. Very large, and we're still going lower and lower every single time. So we are getting into the very, very deep catacombs of the castle. This is way beneath the library, and this is a mission section where you discover things that have to do with the plot of the game. Now, I've talked a lot about the world building on the game, and I will do a full in-depth analysis on the actual gameplay in the game, and I'm not going to investigate that right now because I think it will lead me into a mission section of the game, and I don't want to do that for the sake of these exploring videos. So that's the very bottom. This is definitely a missions portal. But I love the world building in this game, and I have given a lot of credit to the art design and everything that they've done with the castle and the design of the castle in this game. I'm going to apologize for the screen right now. It's going to probably make you very dizzy as I climb back up to the top. But in terms of gameplay, in terms of the plot, I'm just not engaging with it very much, and I think that's the case with a lot of players of this game. There was an article that was released maybe a week ago that mentioned how about 50% of people playing this game, or even more, have not finished the game. They just aren't engaging with the plot elements of the story mode of the game or the gameplay of the game. I don't know why it's glowing. I thought I could interact with it. Anyways, but people want to explore Hogwarts, and the gameplay just isn't as interesting as people would like it to be. And as a result, like, people aren't following the story, and the game is being left unplayed. And I think that just kind of shows that as good of intentions as they may have had with the story mode on this game, a lot of the attraction to this is just being able to explore Hogwarts, and that's what people are doing. So like I said, I'll do more of an in-depth analysis once I do finish the game. I'm not very far along in the story mode of the game. That's why I don't have things like Alohomora unlocked. So we're still blocked out of those, like those level 1 and level 2 locks. But here is where you'll recognize things from the films. This is definitely looking more like the library you see in the films when they're reading about Nicholas Flamel in the library in the first film, or they're trying to figure out a solution to the second task in the fourth film. And I do apologize. I'm going to pause real quick and plug my laptop in. Otherwise, I will lose this stream and have to re-record everything, and I don't want to do that. So, if you see my screen brighten up real quick. There we go. And now we continue through. I'm trying to think if we see the library after the fourth film, really, do we? Sixth film, yeah, because they're talking about Romilda Vane. That's the only other instance I can think of where we see the library later on. There's another one of those puzzle pieces where we will I'll show you here. We go up to, let me go grab Lumos and add it to my collection here. And if I cast Lumos over this puzzle, it will show me a portion of the library where I can find a missing puzzle piece. These puzzle pieces are moths. So it's this painting on the far side of the library, right? So if we go all the way over there, and I do apologize, I mentioned a lot how I don't want to show you too much of this gameplay and I'd rather just explore the castle. But this is kind of a cool element. We find this moth at the place where it hinted, and we chase this moth back to that puzzle board. And as soon as I deluminate my wand, then we are awarded a field guide piece. Perfect. So we basically saw the entire upper floor of the library here, but we will go all the way back and just take a look through some of these one more time. I haven't seen any floating books yet, which is kind of a disappointment, but maybe I'm just not here at the right time. But I do wish the books floated in and out a little bit more. If I turn my head, yeah, they're all stationary, which is a little disappointing to me. But back down these stairs now. And I haven't translated. My Latin isn't super good, so I wouldn't be able to translate all of those. But I'd be interested to see what the Easter eggs on all of those labels are. Docendo decimus. Yeah, I don't know that off the top of my head. Anyways, back up to Central Hall here. And now we're going to stick left and finally see the last portion of this here. And that is going to be, that's a locked door there. The last thing we're going to visit in this episode before going in that direction is the greenhouse here. So this big window at the far end of the central hall has this big tree, and that leads us through these green doors into the greenhouses. So you come across this little entrance area to the greenhouse, double-sided staircase. You can go down either side, doesn't matter. And it spirals down to the base of this tree. And now you're in the main greenhouse. So this is kind of its own thing. It's not necessarily book or film accurate, but it is beautiful. It's this very large single covered greenhouse, which inside of it contains 4 individual greenhouses. So you kind of have this central station greenhouse, and we'll reveal this field guide and collect it. But you have this big, some sort of cherry, they call it the greenhouse tree. I didn't read the field guide piece, but looking like some kind of cherry tree. People collecting various items. And then on either side, there are 2 separate greenhouses, so a total of 4. And one of them, I believe, is locked. No, maybe not. We go in here, and this one, the design of this one is tentacula leaves. So this is all going to be like venomous type plants. Each one has not necessarily a distinct theme, but a different look than all of the other ones, which is a very nice touch. I do like that they're not all the same. I don't believe getting too close to these tentaculas will do anything to you, but you can collect them for various potion items. So we will collect all of the ones we can. And then this goes into the second greenhouse over here. This is the desert themed one, so more of those dirigible plums. There's a field guide about the dirigible plums. Like I mentioned, this is a desert theme, so you're going to have a lot of different cacti and that sort of thing. Circle around here so you get a better view of this section. And then you can go way up top. Those don't really lead anywhere except to more balconies out here. But what we're going to want to do then is cross over to the other side. So that's where we came from. That's that cherry tree at the far entrance end. And that is this other mangrove, ginkgo-ish, water-based tree over on this side, which we will check out. But going into this greenhouse, this is the the jungle beanstalk type area. That's kind of the theme of this house. We go down to the bottom. More tentacula. You can't collect that one, however. But this one, you got pumpkins and squash. Very much beanstalk type items. And we might run into Professor Garlic, which is a very, I don't know if I want to call it unoriginal or just kind of a funny name for a teacher who teaches herbology. And then into number 4 here, this is a more of an Asian style garden, bamboo forest type area. So you'll see like stemmed type plants. I don't know enough about actual botany to tell you all of the different plants in here, but almost like a lilac looking area there. And then we will go back out into the main section. That's that door we just came in. So we'll go back into the main section and check out this end. Oh, nope. Sorry, not that end. The other end. As soon as I figure out which direction I'm going. That end. So one thing I don't like is there's no entrance to the greenhouses on the far end. So you do have to come in on the entrance area. But if you go around this water tree here, I went the wrong way. But there's stairs that lead to the bottom. And it's basically an aquarium. So you come out into this cool area that leads to the bottom of the tank of this aquatic tree. Toadstools and mushrooms growing underneath. And I haven't paid enough attention to see if there are any like fish or Grindylow type creatures inside this plant tank, but we will go back up. That is the greenhouse. So one last look here at this aquatic tree. And just the greenhouse in general here. So I will exit the greenhouse the way we came, and I believe that's all we're going to do for this video. We'll save the bell towers for the next one. This was a rather long video. The bell tower episode that comes next might be a little shorter, but that's all right. And we go through these main doors, and now we are back in Central Hall. So, let me know what you guys think of the world design. This is my favorite section of the castle, but we will continue with more exploring exploring Hogwarts Legacy content coming up in the next episode, where we start to talk about the bell towers going through that door there. But in the meantime, feel free to subscribe to the channel, check out our other Harry Potter content, check out our other Exploring Hogwarts Legacy episodes, and we will see you next time, hopefully very, very soon.